Canada is broken.
Canada's not broken.
Canada is broken. Canada's not broken. Canada is broken.
Canada is not broken.
Canada is broken.
Canadians are not broken.
Canada is broken. Canada is not broken. 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 Broken.
The clang of the cash register, an anxiety-inducing reminder of rising costs.
Yeah, it's just a hell of a mess right now.
The cost of living making it harder to get by and leaving little hope for the future.
We talk about possibly leaving Canada because why should we stay here? Just be overtaxed, underserviced, healthcare sucks, education sucks, government is bloated.
We received calls to the area of Noble and Lee Avenue in the city of Markham. And this is quite a dense residential area. There was reports of a shooting that had happened, and when our officers arrived on scene, we found a female that had suffered from a single gunshot wound. We also were able to get a little bit of video in the area, which is what we put out, and are appealing for any witnesses. We're asking everyone to get onto our social media accounts, take a look at this video and share it. We see a male party that's interacting with our victim, who is pacing back and forth in front of the house. There was a conversation that was had. And as the woman was walking back into her residence, he pulls a firearm out and he actually fires multiple shots at her. Fortunately, again, it was only minor injuries and she is already out of the hospital. But we're looking for anybody that might have been in the area. We do see in the video as well that at least a couple other cars drive by at the same time. And we're appealing to anyone that was on Lee Avenue and the Noble area at that time to please come forward and speak with investigators if you do have any dash cam footage that might capture this interaction.
As of November of last year, Canada had more than 2 million applications in the queue, more than 1 million. So half of that was sitting in a backlog situation.
And this is why they are so dangerous. Illegal guns are so dangerous in the hands of criminals because they have no respect for just the carnage that a gun can cause. So we saw the video that the police released, a bunch of people inside of a recording studio on November 11th at Queen Street near Sudbury. Now, there was a shootout. 100 shots were fired. 2 different rival gangs, according to the police, were confronted one another. The police were on scene rather quickly that night, and they seized 16 firearms at the time. There was initially 8 people charged. One of those 8 people was a 16-year-old who is now facing a murder charge in an unrelated occurrence. 5 of those 8 charges were stayed by the Crown. That is not an uncommon thing. To make an arrest, the threshold is not that large. It's defined as reasonable grounds, which is defined as beyond mere suspicion. The threshold to convict is beyond reasonable doubt, and the Crown's vet cases. They are very responsible. They vet cases that the police lay charges in, and if they don't think that there's a reasonable prospect of a conviction, they withdraw those charges. So that's not really a big deal whatsoever. The police said today that 14 more people have been charged with a variety of different weapons offenses, and they are still looking for 9 others who have arrest warrants out for them.
The Trudeau government did destroy our country economically and socially. Just about the immigration, you're right. The growth of our population was 3.2%. If you compare that from 2023 to 2024, 3.2%. And 100% of that growth was coming from immigration, not Canadians having babies. It's coming from immigration. And if you look at the other Western countries, the average of population growth last year, 2023 to 2024, that was 0.6%. So yes, with a country of 40 million people, we had last year more than 1.2 million foreigners in our country. And actually that's causing a big crisis.
Scott's position now on against all export tariffs and against dollar-for-dollar response. Who speaks for Canada vis-a-vis?
The federal government has continued to say clearly, as I will, that everything is on the table. But our efforts are first and foremost to make sure that tariffs don't come on Canada. It would be bad for Canada, yes, but it would also be bad for American consumers. And that's why we are continuing to make the case that rather than restrict the goods coming from Canada, the U.S. should be working even more with Canada on our energy, on our critical minerals, on the goods that they need to be able to have the economic growth that Donald Trump has promised. That is our first choice. Next, if they do move forward on tariffs, we are ready to respond in a strong way, but in a way that will be stepping up gradually with one goal, not to figure out how to manage these tariffs and live with them over the long term, but to figure out how to get them removed as quickly as possible. And on that, everything is on the table.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ça?
Comme j'ai dit, je ne ferai pas de commentaires basés sur
What side
is
Donald Trump getting more serious about Canada?
Pensez-vous pouvoir ajouter, Madame Smith, à la lumière des discussions que vous avez eues avec les premiers ministres territoriaux provinciaux hier, est-ce qu'il y a un mouvement, une évolution, et avez-vous confiance de pouvoir la rallier?
Écoute, depuis les débuts, j'ai reconnu que Mme Smith a un rôle important qu'elle remplit de défendre les intérêts des Albertains. Comme tous les premiers ministres doivent défendre l'intérêt de leur propre région. Mais en même temps, il y a un intérêt canadien que tout le monde est en train de ressentir. J'entends et je comprends Mme Smith.
I understand and I hear Ms. Smith, and what I asked yesterday is can we work together to find ways that we can use the important leverage that oil and gas from Canada have in order to remove or push back if tariffs come into play. So I've heard that there are things that we can do, but is there something that she can offer that we can find
mauvais pour les États-Unis qui encouragerait de revenir sur les tarifs sans faire plus mal aux Albertains que nécessaire. Parce que depuis le début, je disais, quelle que soit notre réponse, il faut que ça soit équitable pour tous les Canadiens.
But I said it needs to be fair for all Canadians. We can't have one region of the country carrying a bigger burden because of Donald Trump's actions. We need to defend all of Canada.
Non, elle fait sa job de défendre l'Alberta, mais
it's her job to defend Alberta.
Tous défendre tous les Canadiens.
But we all want to defend all Canadians.
All right, so we were just listening to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking to reporters ahead of a caucus meeting in Ottawa. Of course, tariffs. That was the big question. He says everything is on the table. He did cite a couple of points. One, that the U.S. should be working even more with Canada. And also that, if that doesn't work, there's going to be a strong response from the government stepping up gradually.
The survey also shows 54% of British Columbians are spending all of their income on essential bills and expenses, and 57% doubt they'll ever get ahead.
I remember living from paycheck to paycheck, and that's tough. That's really tough, and you're always stressed out, and that's not good.
Of course, with these tariffs coming up from the United States, it's going to make it even that much worse.
Really quickly before you go, what happens to asylum seekers while they're waiting?
They're here. They're here. They're able to work, but essentially they're in limbo. It's it's a temporary sort of stay until their application is adjudicated. So they're here and they're waiting for their application to be processed, and that could take quite some time, especially with the backlog.
York police have released shocking video showing a woman being shot outside her home in Markham. Police say the suspect pulled up to the Lee Avenue and Noble Street area in a dark-colored Audi A4 sedan yesterday around 5:30 p.m. The victim exits her home, speaks to the suspect, and is shot as she turns to go back inside. The suspect is described as an Asian man with a skinny build and was last seen wearing a construction vest, helmet, dark-colored hooded sweater, black pants, and a medical mask. The woman was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators believe the incident was targeted and are asking witnesses or anyone with information to come forward.
It will definitely impact all levels of immigration processing, both the court system and the regular processing.
Plus, with the changes coming to immigration laws and what happens to asylum seekers, this again contributes to part of that problem. Really quickly, in our national security screenings, foreign interference from last year, one of the things that came up is potential problems in screening during immigration. So with less staff, How is Ottawa ensuring that the immigration process screening is up to date and adequate?
So they're using a lot of AI-based tools to try to facilitate that. I think the issue is, along with less staff, along with longer processing times with less staff, what type of decision making are we going to get, right? It's not just about things are going to take longer, but will you see curious refusals? Will people get through that perhaps shouldn't? There are different departments that handle that from a security standpoint, but I think the point remains that with less people, it's just going to be very difficult to maintain that same service standard.
How long does it typically take to process applications like a work permit or permanent residency? And then what will change once there's less staff?
So the processing time really depends on where the person is applying from. Typically, they can range anywhere from a few weeks to a couple months. Permanent residence can take quite a bit longer, which is normal. To your question, what this will do is, I think it's fair to assume that people need to expect longer processing times across the board. So that's not just sort of people coming in on a work permit. It'll mean people already here looking to extend their status, people who were anticipating, let's say they've been selected to apply for permanent residence, and they think, okay, I'll have this status in, let's say, 8 to 12 months. That could be close to double, depending. So I think elongated processing times will be the result.
First day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing two genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. I am as people who say cis man. There are people there who they say they're gender neutral. Well, you are a man. Yes, there are people out there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only two?
I'm only aware of two, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of two, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone to make their own personal decisions. That's the kind of government I'm going to run.
And with that, the current government, they currently have passports that allow people to put on, gender neutral on their passport. Advocate groups want the government, mind you, the outgoing government, to ask the U.S., would the U.S. recognize these passports, obviously on their way out, if you are the next prime minister? Is that something that you would advocate for?
I have to be honest. Yeah. I have to be honest with you. I just saw your segment on homeless encampments that are popping up all over Toronto. We've got 25% of our population in poverty. Housing costs have doubled. Crime is rampaging through our streets. I just find it to be a strange priority to spend time talking about this. My priority is to give people back control of their lives, bring back Canada's promise that anyone who works hard gets a powerful paycheck and pension that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods. That's the promise we need for Canadians. If Liberals want to talk about different labels for gender that they want to put on passports in the United States, they can do that. I'm going to talk about the things that will bring home Canada's promise.
A new RBC poll found 59% of British Columbians feel financially paralyzed due to rising costs, 4% higher than the national average. This even as inflation drops to the Bank of Canada's 2% target.
Many Canadians, anecdotally, feel like their income is not going up, but yet costs, even though it's only 2% now, not 8%, they're still going up.
Just under 1/3 of British Columbians say their finances are in a constant state of chaos.
It's really gone downhill in the last 10 years, the quality of life, and I just, honestly, I feel bad for people every day, and I don't like having to feel bad every day.
This was a group of individuals who seemed alarmingly comfortable not only carrying illegal firearms, but also treating them like props at a party. You'll see they casually play with the handguns and rest them on their laps before dancing around like it's some kind of celebration. What started as reckless posturing escalated into chaos as we allege they began to fire back at a rival gang, wildly spraying bullets into the street without any regard for human life. It's shocking behavior that underscores the danger these individuals pose in our communities.
That was bang on what the inspector said there, and that's the difference between legal guns owned by people who abide by the law and they respect the power of a gun, and those criminals who get guns that come in from the United States. They are the ones that are causing the damage on our streets.
And Toronto police have identified a suspect who is wanted after an officer was dragged by vehicle in the East End. Police say officers were conducting a vehicle stop near Midland and Lawrence around 3:30 when the driver suddenly took off and dragged the officer a short distance. The officer's injuries are described as non-life-threatening. 37-year-old Jerome Fitzroy Morgan is wanted for assault with a weapon, failing to remain and failing to comply with conditions. The suspect vehicle is a 2011 four-door black BMW. Anyone with information has to contact police at 41 Division or Crime Stoppers.
Unsuspecting of why he was there and actually went out to interact with him.
Yeah, and we're taking a look at this video on screen right now, and it appears the woman was talking to him. He fires multiple shots. Do you think the two knew one another? We know that police say this is targeted right now.
Well, we do believe the residence was targeted, and we do believe that this was the intended victim. There's no indication to suggest that the victim and the suspect were known to each other. And again, that's something we're always looking for, trying to link why things are happening and who knows whom. But in this case, there's no indication that the two are known to each other. Again, you can see that Audi A4 that we're looking for, and there's a couple of cars, again, that did drive by. If you are seeing this, if you were in the area and had dash cam, please reach out to our investigators.
And at this moment, is it just this one suspect you are looking for? It does look like he is leaving the scene and going into the driver's side of the car.
That's correct. Right now, we are just looking for the single suspect. We see him arrive on scene in that Audi, get out. There's the interaction here, and then go back to the driver's side and get into the vehicle.